Do you have someone you love? Are you having a crush? Today, I prepare it for everyone who wants to love. Those who want to love and those who are in love. Please watch this video until the end. Hello, I'm Rebecca from Orin Korea who tells you everything about Korea. Today, we are going to look at the Korean classic novel 춘향전. 춘향전 is a love story. Think of it as Romeo and Juliet in Korea. Of course, the conclusion is quite different. From now on, let's look at 3 things you must know when you love through 춘향전. I just said 춘향전 is a Korean version of Romeo and Juliet. The plot of Romeo and Juliet is like this. Romeo and Juliet find each other at a masquerade ball, and they both fall in love at first sight. However, Romeo and Juliet's love cannot be achieved. It is because their families are mutual and implacable enemies. To make matters worse, an incident occurs in which Romeo kills Juliet's cousin. Romeo and Juliet, who are no longer able to achieve love, die due to misunderstanding from each other. Romeo and Juliet face a tragic ending. However, the Korean classic novel 춘향전 ends with a happy ending, not a tragic one. From now on, I will talk about the Korean classic novel 춘향전. The local background of 춘향전 is Namon in Korea. Today's main characters are Song Chun-young and Lee Mok-yong, and there is a supporting character Wol-me. She is the mother of Song Chun-young. Wol-me's job is Ki-seng. Ki-seng is a performer who dances, sings, and plays musical instruments to spice up and raise excitement when Yangban, who were gently of old Korea, drink alcohol at party. In the past, however, Korea had a rigid caste system. In this society, the Ki-seng were part of the lowest social class. For that reason, Song Chun-young, the daughter of a Ki-seng, was naturally a lower class. On the other hand, Lee Mok-yong's father was a local official. That's why he had the upper class status. Lee Mok-yong and Song Chun-young were not from the enemy's family like Romeo and Juliet, but they had different status that they could not love each other. But their love story has a happy ending, unlike Romeo and Juliet. Lee Mok-yong falls in love with Song Chun-young, who is riding the swing on Dano Day. It's about the same as Romeo and Juliet falling in love at first sight. But our Song Chun-young is different from Juliet. Even though she's from a low status, she's quite intelligent and has a clear sense of self-control. Song Chun-young's mother, Wol-me, put a lot of effort into studying when raising Chun-young. That's why Song Chun-young is grown up as a woman who is smarter than any other man. Lee Mok-yong asked Chun-young out on a date, but he was rejected. At that time, Chun-young's reaction was surprising because according to social norm, it was unimaginable that lower class would reject the request of the upper class. Just at that moment, Bang-ja, Lee Mok-yong's servant, gave advice to Mok-yong.
Chun Haing is said to be an intelligent person with a good personality and high knowledge. Her skill at composing poetry is highly regarded. Even though her mother is a jizin, she is not a jizin. The inspectors, county magistrates, and local officials all tried to meet Chun Haing, but they have never met her.
Then, Lee Mok-yong changes his attitude and tells Chun-young,
I didn't regard you as a jizang. I just asked you to be my study partner because you are well known for your writing skill.
Only after Mok-yong's explanation does Chun-young accept the meeting. Like this, it is Song Chun-young, the daughter of Ki-seng, who does not give up her will even to the upper class. Song Chun-young was well aware that marriage with Lee Mok-yong would be an opportunity to raise her status. However, she is apparently knows that it will be difficult to achieve, and for this to happen, it needs a powerful love story between the two. Song Chun-young, who became a couple with Lee Mok-yong, constantly tells him about the equal relationship. It may be a strange story. Is it really possible for lower-class women to have an equal relationship with an upper-class man? But Song Chun-young is smarter than we thought. Regardless of her lower class, she is arrogant and intelligent like the upper class, not acting like a lower class. Because of such behavior, Mok-yong may have been attracted more to Chun-young. When Chunhyang and Mongryong promise to get married and are dating, Mongryong's father is assigned to Seoul and plans to leave. Mongryong will also go up to Seoul. After Mongryong leaves, a new local official will be appointed to Namon. The name of new government official is Byun-hak-do. He calls all the Giseng as soon as he enters the government office, and he has a drink and a feast. And he looks for Chunhyang. Chunhyang rejects to join in the feast, saying she is not a Giseng. But Byun-hak-do forces Chunhyang to come in the government office, and he asks for sleep with Chunhyang. But Chunhyang refuses it point blank. Then Byun-hak-do puts Chunhyang in prison and tortures her horribly. At that time, Mongryong proudly passed the examination to select official, and he got the government position to inspect local officials. In order to inspect local officials, he needs to hide his identity. So Lee Mong-ryong comes down to Namon disguised as a shabby figure. Arriving in Namon, he tried to find out how Chunhyang is doing. Soon, he finds out that Chunhyang is in prison. On the day of Chunhyang's execution, Lee Mong-ryong appears dramatically to save Chunhyang from Byun-hak-do, and Lee Mong-ryong and Song Chunhyang get married and lived happily ever after. This was the Korean love story Chunhyangjeon. Let's get right to the point and look at 3 things to know when to love. First, there is a reason for love. Since there is a reason for love, you would often think that it is the other person's condition. No, I'm not talking about the other person's condition. Each person has his or her ideal type. Of course, it can be appearance, academic background, property, etc. But beyond only these things, so many different kinds of people are living in this world. Those who want love, please listen carefully. Each person has a deficiency. Some may have an appearance complex, others may have an intellectual deficiency, and some may have a family deficiency. Please look at the deficiency of the person you love and like. Then you'll see what he or she wants and needs. Every person has a desire that is caused by the lack. You don't have to be perfect. What you do is just to make up for that desire. Love is a relationship. If you can supplement his or her desire, that will be the reason to love you. Chunhyang has a lack of status. It is Lee Mong-ryong who will fill the space. Wolme, Chunhyang's mother, also has a complex about her status. That's why she taught Chunhyang all kinds of education not to raise her as a giseng. Knowing this, Lee Mong-ryong did not treat Song Chunhyang as a lower class when he asked her out on a date. Instead, he asked her to meet him as a study mate. If you pay attention to the other person's deficiency and try to make up for it, you will be able to achieve love. Again, this deficiency will not just be a deficiency, but a reason for love. Mother Teresa told this.
I can do what you can't do, and you can do what I can't do. So we can do a big job together.
Second, there is a reason why the other person doesn't love you. I said there is a reason for love. There is a reason when the other person doesn't love you. This is simple. If the other person loses the reason for loving you, he or she will have a reason for not loving you. Let's go back to Chunhyangjeon. Why didn't the new provincial official Byun-hak-do get loved by Chunhyang even after Mong-ryong left? Byun-hak-do was not interested in the lack of Chunhyang. He was only interested in his own desires. Why did Chunhyang refuse a sexual relation with Byun-hak-do, who was threatening her life? Did she simply keep a rational loyalty to Lee Mong-ryong? No, Chunhyang had a lack of status. In other words, there was a desire to live with dignity as a person, not as a giseng. If you look at Chunhyang's life slowly, you can see that she tried to overcome her lack of status. In other words, rejecting Byun-hak-do's request itself is for her own sake. That's a saying in Dante's Divine Comedy. Hell is a place where there is no hope. Chunhyang didn't want to live in hell without hope. In other words, Chunhyang wanted to be able to have human dignity even when she was dead and alive. Third, maintain your own value. Until now, we know why you are loved and why you are not loved. Then what should we do? You can be loved for a long time only if you continue to prove your value to the person you love. If I were Pyeonakdo, what method would I use for Chunyang? Wouldn't there still be a possibility that love would come true if he knew Chunyang's deficiency and proved that he was the right person who could fill the deficiency rather than Lee Mong-yong? However, Pyeonakdo, who was in a superior position, did not prove the value of love. On the contrary, Chunyang showed Mong-yong her own value. Chunyang endured the terrible torture and provided a justification to overcome her status limitation. This story is told to the king, and the king admires Chunyang's loyalty to love and gives Chunyang the status of the upper class. Today, we look at 3 things to know in love through the Korean classic novel Chunyangjeon. I'll organize quickly. First, there is a clear reason for love. Pay attention to the deficiency of the person you love. Second, there is a clear reason for not loving. If you are not being loved, check to see if you are turning a blind eye to the other person's deficiency. Third, prove your worth for continuous love. You have to prove that you are constantly relieving the other person's deficiency. Was today's content informative? Through Chunyangjeon today, I hope you remember the 3 things you need to know when you love and find the right love for you. I'm Rebecca, a real Korean woman from Orin, Korea, who tells you everything about Korea. Subscription and alarm settings are love. Please press like as well. That's it.